Jim here again, and I'd like to welcome you all onto my arrow building course, you lucky people. Right, let's get started. I get a lot of people asking me questions about arrows and feathers, so I'll try and cover everything here in two parts. First, we're going to deal with the arrow decoration and a simple way of cresting that I think looks really effective and helps you spot arrows if you take a miss out in the field. It makes them quite easy to spot. And the second part will be fletching up the arrow. So we'll go through the different aspects of both of those. So without further ado, let's get started. What you see in front of me here is everything you're going to need to get you started cresting and fletching your own arrows. First off, you're going to need a shaft. This is a bear shaft. This is a 500 fine bear paw pentathlon timber stick. Quite frankly, I haven't found anything better than these. I love these arrows. I used to use cedarwood, and I still do occasionally use cedarwood. I love the smell of cedarwood, but I was forever buying a box of 100 shafts and only finding 10, 11 worth anything. The rest were all not. They didn't come up to my standards. So I find with timber sticks, they're always great, and they're tough as well. They're really tough. Obviously, if you shoot them into a brick wall, you're going to have problems. But if you take a miss and get a tree or something, it's not going to do them any harm at all. They're great arrows. You're going to need feathers. These are a selection of feathers. We've got a purple and white 5-inch parabolic cut feather. These are 5-inch shield cut feathers, and these are 4-inch shield cut feathers. Obviously, the bigger the feather, the slower the arrow will be, but the more stable it will be. So it's up to you to pick what combination works best for you. You're going to need, if you're going to be cresting or painting your arrows, you're going to need some paint. Now I've just got an all-purpose white paint and a fluorescent green paint. I'll show you what we're going to do with those very shortly. You're going to need a fletching jig. Now a fletching jig's come in three different types. You've got a left-handed, a right-handed, and a straight. Now if you're right-handed, that doesn't mean that you need a right-handed fletching jig. And vice versa, if you're left-handed, you don't need a left-handed fletching jig. I'm right-handed. I use a left-wing fletching jig, and all it does, it determines the twist that it puts on the feather. But you do have to bear in mind that you can only use left-wing feathers in a left-handed clamp and right-wing feathers in a right-handed clamp. As long as you keep, all left-wing or all right-wing, you're fine. It doesn't matter. Or if you're putting them on straight, as long as you put all left wing on straight or all right wing on straight, it's fine. It doesn't matter. But you've just got to make sure that you keep left wing and right wing separate. I'll go into later on in the video. I'll explain the way to tell if your feather is left wing or right wing. It's very simple. You're going to need some glue. There's a few different types of glue here. There's a couple of different types of super glue. There's gel. There's a brush-on glue, or there's Fletch-Tite. Again, personal preference. But yeah, that's. Oh, and this is a lighter fluid, and you use that to clean your shaft before you put the feathers on, or before you paint it. It just clears off the grease, and makes the thing stick to it a lot better. First thing that we're going to do, we're going to use a little bit of lighter fluid and put it onto a nice lint-free cloth. Then all we're going to do is just rub down that section of the shaft, just to remove all the grease and all the nasty things that can get on there, which is going to stop the feathers and the paint from sticking to it. So once we've cleaned that, we get some of this. This is called frog tape. This is just a masking tape, but it stops bleeding. Well, it's supposed to stop any sort of bleeding. So I guess we'll see when we've painted it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape just around there, just around this bear paw logo at the top. There we and then what that's going to do, that's just going to stop any bleeding, because we're going to paint this white, and what will happen is when we take that tape off, it should be a solid white line, and we shouldn't get any bleeding through onto the other part of the shaft. What you can do also, just to, because we're going to be using a spray paint, we can loosely just put some on there, and some on there, and then what that does, that just protects the shaft from overspray, so we don't, so we get a nice clean arrow. Right. So the next thing to do is paint it. So to the man cave. Okay, so here we are. Here we have the paint and the shaft. So let's get painted. Now, it's important when you're painting a shaft like this that you do several very thin, even coats. You don't want to do it in one big thick coat, because then one, it'll look terrible, and two, you won't get a very good finish on it. So I've been shaking this up for a while now, and I've never actually used one with a trigger before. I'm normally used to use the ones, but right, let's give it a go. And as you can see, the way that's coming out there is absolutely terrible. Okay, so that's, I don't know if you can see, that's the first coat. So we're going to give that a few minutes and come back and do another coat. Maybe one more coat should just do it. I think that's it for the white coat. Now when that's dry, we get to do the fun bit and put the green on there. Okay, now we've let that dry. What we're going to do, we're going to do the fade with some luminous green fluorescent paint. There we have it. So we'll just let that dry, and there we have our fade. I spoke to you earlier about the difference between a left wing and a right wing feather. Now I use left wing feathers because I have a left-handed jig. Now the reason that the way you can tell a left or a right hand feather is if you hold it at the biggest part of the feather here and look at it, it will curve one way or the other. If it curves to the left, it's a left wing feather. If it curves to the right, it's a right wing feather. Very simple. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fletch up this arrow with four left wing shield cut feathers. These are gateway feathers. These are quite nice. They're fairly inexpensive. I mean, you can get some very expensive custom made feathers where you spliced feathers and things, but I'm just going to be using these simple feathers. So what we need to do, you need to get your clamp. Now your clamp should come off your jig fairly easily, and on the clamp you should see some markings. You should work out where you want your feather in conjunction to your knock. I like this marking here, So what I do, I pop my feather in there nice and securely. What I like to do, I like to leave a little bit of a gap, just so you've got some, I call it squish room. When you put the feather onto the shaft, it just gives you that little bit of extra room to sort of squish it onto the shaft nicely. Now, there's different types of things you can use. You can use the tape. I think Bearpaw do a nice double-sided tape. That's very neat, very quick. There's various super glues, or you've got the classic Fletch-Tite. Now, I used to use Fletch-Tite on everything, but unfortunately, when you use Fletch-Tite, because a feather has a natural twist in it, what it will do, if you put it on with Fletch-Tite and take the clamp off too soon and not let it dry, it will go funny ways. You know, you've really got to let that go off, and I mean, you want to leave it a minimum of about 15 minutes. I used to leave them on for 20 minutes. So to do 3 feathers on an arrow, it would take over an hour to do 1 arrow, and life's too short. so I've changed to the this glue that you put on with the brush. Again, it's very neat, very quick, and you can fletch up arrows very quickly with those. So I'm going to use this, but you know, everything has its merit. Tape I never got on with. I mean, it might have been the batch of tape I had. I mean, some people swear by it, but I found it because I put them on with a helical twist. It never held the twist. So I don't know. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to order another batch and see how it goes. But for now, I'm just going to use this super glue. So what we need to do, we need to. I mean, I've got this set up to do 4 feathers, which means it clicks 4 times. More often than not, you'll be using 3 feathers. I'm kind of still experimenting with 4 feathers. I'm kind of liking the results at the moment. Very stable arrow. Field shooting, I don't shoot huge distances, so distance isn't a massive thing for me. The biggest distances on a field shoot that I really shoot is going to be 50, 60 yards or meters, depending on the course. But yeah, so I'm using 4 feathers. It's the same principle as using 3. It's just you put 1 less feather on. So you put your arrow in there. There's a little. I mean, what this is probably going to do, it's probably going to take all the paint off. But like, it's only an experiment. It's only a demonstration. So you've got your. I don't know if you see that. You've got your arrow in your jig like that. You've got your feather in your clamp. You get your glue. And I'm just going to brush it onto this feather. Make sure I'm covering all the feather. Now what I'm going to do, I get the clamp it on there, push it down, hold it for a couple of seconds. Yeah, this arrow is still a bit tacky, so I'm leaving fingerprints on it, but you get the idea. Hold it down for a couple of seconds, and as it's super glue, it goes off very quickly. So I'll unclamp that, and you see that's on there nice and securely. Click it around 1 turn and repeat the process. And send arrow points flying everywhere. So again, drop the arrow in, put it up to the mark. You can put a little bit of tape on or a pen mark or something where you like it, if you don't have the gauges, if you don't know which increment you go for, but you'll get a feel for it. Ideally, you don't want the feather too close to the nock, or your fingers will affect that when you're shooting. So again, I'm just going to brush that on there. That on there. Yeah, again, you can see here it's pulling the paint off, but again, you get the idea. I'm kind of rushing this, so I won't bore you doing exactly the same thing twice. I'll skip forward and come back to you when it's done. Alright, there you have it. There's your decorated and feathered arrow. You can see 4 feathers, fly very nicely. Please ignore the mess I've made of the fade, but you get the general idea. I mean, these are great, especially when you're field shooting on a 3D course or something, and you take a miss. It can be very difficult looking for a brown arrow in the ground where that will stick out like a sore thumb. That is also one I've done without the fade. I think it looks just as nice. I tend to only do the fade for field arrows. Target arrows I tend to leave just bare, and they it doesn't affect the performance or anything. I hope you found this video useful and not boring. I've tried not to be boring. But yeah, well, thank you very much for watching. The music that you've heard in the background while I've been doing some stuff is by a very talented musician called Phil Lewis. He's a very talented guitarist with golden fingers. Please look him up on iTunes. You can buy his albums there. Yeah, so thank you for Phil for letting me use your music, and thank you guys for watching, and thank you for your very kind comments about my first video. It really inspired me to make more, so thank you very much, and shoot straight, guys. Thank you.